the last person to see Nancy Guthrie alive, drove her home, watched the garage door close, and drove away. His name is Tommaso Cioni. He is the husband of Nancy's eldest daughter, Annie. He is the brother-in-law of Today Show anchor Savannah Guthrie. And on day 3 of this investigation, a law enforcement source with direct knowledge of this case told a veteran journalist something that stopped the true crime world in its tracks. Tommaso Cioni was the prime suspect, not a person of interest. Prime suspect. Then 11 days later, the sheriff stood in front of cameras and said the family had been cleared. But here is what no official has explained since that clearance announcement. The car Tommaso Cioni used to drive Nancy home that night, the last night anyone saw her alive, is still sitting in a forensic evidence lot. Not returned, not released, still under active investigation. The family has been cleared, the car has not. That is where this investigation stands today. And that contradiction is what this story is about. Let us go back to the beginning, January 31st, 2026, a Saturday evening. Nancy Guthrie, 84 years old, sharp and independent, living alone in the Catalina Foothills neighborhood just outside Tucson, Arizona, has dinner with her daughter Annie and Annie's husband, Tommaso Cioni. Nancy does not drive herself to dinner, she takes an Uber. After dinner, it is Tommaso who drives her home. According to the Pima County Sheriff's Department, Tommaso waited until Nancy was safely inside before leaving. The garage door closed at 9:50 in the evening. That is the last confirmed moment anyone can place Nancy Guthrie in the living world. What follows in the hours after is a sequence of confirmed technical events that together tell a story no official is yet willing to explain publicly. At 1:47 in the morning on February 1st, Nancy's Google Nest doorbell camera disconnects from the network. 25 minutes later, that same camera detects motion outside the property, but because the Nest account did not have an active cloud subscription, no footage was saved. Whatever that camera detected at 2:12 in the morning is gone. It exists nowhere. At 2:28 a.m., Nancy's pacemaker application disconnects from her phone. By 11 a.m. that Sunday morning, Nancy has failed to show up for her weekly church live stream with a friend, something she did without exception every single week. Her family is contacted. They travel to the house and arrive around noon. What they find is this: her car in the driveway, her phone inside the house, her wallet, her hearing aid, her medication, everything she needs to survive left behind. Everything except Nancy. The Pima County Sheriff's Department is called at approximately noon. Officers arrive at 12:15 p.m. Within hours, what began as a welfare check becomes something far darker. Blood was found at the entrance to Nancy's home, confirmed to be hers. Her personal belongings were left in a manner that made one thing unmistakably clear. Nancy Guthrie did not walk out of that house on her own. The case is officially classified as kidnapping, and the last person confirmed to have seen her alive was Tommaso Cioni. Stay with me, because what happens in the 48 hours that follow changes the entire direction of this investigation. February 3rd, Day 3. The case is barely 48 hours old as a criminal matter. Ashley Banfield, veteran television journalist, former CNN and News Nation anchor, goes on her podcast Drop Dead Serious. Banfield cites a highly regarded law enforcement source, her words, with direct knowledge of this investigation. That source tells her Tommaso Cioni is not a person of interest. He is a prime suspect. And Banfield also reports that law enforcement has towed a dark Honda SUV, Annie and Tommaso's vehicle, and impounded it for forensic processing. The Sheriff's Department responds immediately. The statement reads, "We have not identified a suspect or person of interest in this case." But here is what that statement does not say. It does not say Banfield's reporting is false. It does not say Tommaso Cioni has been cleared. It does not say the vehicle was impounded for reasons unrelated to Cioni. It says they have not named a suspect. That is a precise and deliberate choice of words, and it is not the same thing as saying there is no suspect. On February 7th, Day 7 of the investigation, Sheriff's deputies arrive at Annie and Tommaso Cioni's home. They remain inside for nearly 3 hours. Photographers positioned outside capture deputies leaving the property. Former CIA and FBI Special Agent Tracy Walder, speaking to People magazine, described what the deputies were carrying as evidence processing tools, a white case, and a brown bag consistent with evidence collection. According to NBC News, the search was consented. Annie and Tommaso gave investigators permission to enter without a warrant. Law enforcement called it routine. The family called it cooperation. But here is the part no one is talking about. This 3-hour search, with evidence bags, interior photography, and forensic equipment, took place 4 days after Banfield had publicly named Tommaso Cioni as the prime suspect. 4 days. And routine is a difficult word to defend when the deputies leave carrying equipment associated with forensic evidence collection. The question is not whether the search was appropriate. It almost certainly was. The question is what they were looking for and whether they found it. Then February 16th arrives. Sheriff Chris Nano stands before cameras and makes a statement reported around the world. The Guthrie family, he says, has been cleared as possible suspects. Cleared. And for most of the media covering this case, that word closed the chapter. Move on. Find another angle. But here is what the mainstream coverage did not sit with long enough. Banfield was asked about her reporting directly after that clearance announcement. Her answer was unambiguous. Her source, the same highly regarded law enforcement source with direct knowledge of this investigation, had stood by the reporting every single day since it was first published, had not recanted, or had not said they were wrong, had not walked a single detail back. Even after the sheriff told America the family was cleared, the source inside that investigation still considered Tommaso Cioni a prime suspect. Two things are simultaneously confirmed here. The sheriff publicly cleared the family, and a source inside that same investigation did not change their position when the sheriff changed his public posture. That is not a minor discrepancy. And that is a direct contradiction between the public face of this investigation and what someone with internal knowledge was telling a credible journalist, and it has never been resolved. Then Megyn Kelly enters the conversation. Kelly, former Fox News anchor, attorney, and host of one of the most listened to podcasts in America, states publicly what many were thinking privately. It would be, in her words, inappropriate not to scrutinize the last person to see Nancy alive. She goes further. She says she believes the reason investigators kept returning to Annie and Tommaso's home was because they were actively considering whether the couple had involvement. She also says she could not understand why law enforcement would keep interviewing the same neighbors repeatedly unless they were building towards something specific. Two major journalists, two separate platforms, both independently and publicly pointing toward the same individual, and both doing so after the sheriff's clearance statement. Someone in this situation has it wrong, and then there is the car. February 26th. Day 27 of the search for Nancy Guthrie. Crime journalist Brianna Whitney reports a detail most mainstream outlets are not leading with. The vehicle Tommaso Cioni used to drive Nancy home on the last night she was ever seen alive is still in a forensic evidence lot. Not returned, not released, still under active investigation. When the Pima County Sheriff's Department was pressed directly for comment, their response was this: the vehicle is still part of the investigation. The family has been cleared. The car has not. And this is the part that makes this case considerably more complicated. In May of 2025, 8 months before Nancy Guthrie disappeared, Tommaso Cioni signed a durable power of attorney document naming his wife Annie as his agent for property and financial matters. But legal experts are quick to contextualize this. Power of attorney for property is genuinely routine in real estate transactions, particularly mortgage closings where one party cannot appear in person. On its own, in isolation, this document is legally unremarkable. But context is not nothing. A document that transferred control of Tommaso's financial and property affairs to Annie was signed 8 months before Tommaso Cioni became the most scrutinized private individual in America. There is a second name that emerged in the early weeks of this investigation, one that requires precise and careful handling: Dominic Evans, a bass guitarist and member of a Tucson band called Early Black, the same band Tommaso Cioni plays in. When the FBI released surveillance footage of the masked suspect and described him as approximately 5 feet 9 to 5 feet 10 with an average build, online investigators began pattern matching. Evans fits that physical description. Comparisons were drawn between a marking visible on the suspect's wrist in the footage and tattoos visible on Evans in publicly available photographs. A prior burglary charge surfaced in online searches within days. Evans spoke directly to the New York Times. He described feeling as though someone had taken his identity. He and his wife said they were effectively confined to their home. Lights off, their teenage son told not to return, while people gathered outside through the night. Sheriff Nano addressed the Evans speculation directly about the confirmed forensic evidence, because this is where the picture becomes significantly more complicated. Biological material was recovered from 2 confirmed locations, from gloves found 2 miles from Nancy's home, and from inside the residence itself. That DNA belongs to an unknown male, a male whose profile does not match anyone currently held in the FBI's national database, and critically, a male whose DNA does not match anyone in the Guthrie family. This means that if Tommaso Cioni had been present at that crime scene in the way Banfield's source suggested, his DNA would in all probability be there. The first action law enforcement would have taken was to compare his biological profile to the recovered material. If it had matched, he would have been arrested. He has not been arrested. He has not been charged. The DNA, as the evidence currently stands, points toward an unknown individual. That is not circumstantial. That is confirmed forensic evidence. But here is the detail that no official has publicly explained. Nancy Guthrie's home address was being searched online in the Tucson area as far back as June 2025, 7 months before she disappeared. Not her name, her address, the specific house, the one she lived in alone. 7 months of someone identifying exactly where to find an 84-year-old woman living alone in the Catalina foothills. And if this was a family member behind the disappearance, 7 months of online searching for an address they already had makes no logical sense. You do not search online for the address of a woman you have dinner with regularly. That Google Trends data, combined with the DNA belonging to an unknown male with no database match, points towards someone external to this family. Someone who researched Nancy Guthrie methodically over months, identified her address, studied her routine, identified the gaps in her security, including a doorbell camera with no active recording subscription, and then executed a kidnapping with enough precision to avoid leaving a single, matchable biological trace. So where does this investigation actually stand? The FBI is running genetic genealogy analysis on the partial DNA recovered from inside Nancy's home. Investigators are working through Walmart's backpack sales records across the entire state of Arizona. They are canvassing gun shops with the doorbell footage. There are tens of thousands of tips. A federal reward of $100,000 is on the table. The Guthrie family has offered $1 million for information leading to Nancy's safe recovery. Nancy Guthrie is 84 years old. She cannot go more than 24 hours without her medication. She has limited mobility. We are 27 days past the last confirmed moment anyone saw her alive. The sheriff said the family is cleared. A source inside that same investigation has not changed their position. The car Tommaso Cioni drove that night is still in a forensic evidence lot. The DNA belongs to an unknown male no database has identified, and someone was searching for Nancy's home address 7 months before anyone reported her missing. 2 experienced journalists are still publicly asking questions. The sheriff is still saying cleared, and somewhere out there, an unknown male